Breathy gasps and sound of skin slapping rang in the silence of the room as two bodies moved against each other. With a loud moan from the female and a grunt from the male, they reached their climax. The male rolled off and lay down beside her. They panted heavily, staring at the ceiling as they tried to stable their breathing. They both turned their head towards each other and smiled in contentment. That was out of the world. They chuckled in unison. He shifted closer, capturing her lips again for an upteenth kiss tonight. The kiss turned more intense as their tongue fought for dominance, making out wildly. The room filled with smooching sound and airy hums. But someone or something had to interrupt their moment. Their jiffy or intimacy broke by the ping sound of his phone. He groaned in between the kiss, which muffled into her mouth. I need to check it. He mumbled in between the hoot kiss, but she whined, grabbing his nape, not ready to leave him. He somehow pulled back, earning a frustrated look from her. He inhaled deeply and reached out for his phone, which was placed on the nightstand. He sighed, reading the text he just received. He rose from the bed and searched for his clothes. She watched him as he walked around the room collecting his clothes, wearing them one by one. She raised her upper body and covered herself with the grey silk sheets, leaning against the headboard. Are you leaving? She asked, failing to hide the tint of gloom in her voice. He let out a sigh and stepped towards her, buttoning his shirt. He settled himself beside her. I got a text from father. I need to leave urgently. Since when are we going to keep up like this, hiding from everyone like we are committing a sin? Loving someone is not a crime. I don't know. It's getting suffocating for me too, coming to meet you secretly. Sometimes I just want to run away along with you, but then I think about my father and stop myself. She let out a deep hum of understanding. Me too. I can't leave my father alone. Only if our fathers were not enemies, things would have been different for us. She nodded, agreeing with him. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her in a hug. She placed her chin on his shoulder, letting out a sigh of relief. When are we going to meet again? As usual, after 2 weeks. It's really frustrating that I can't even contact you during this 2 weeks gap. It's good for us and the people around us. He broke the hug and cupped her face between his hands. I promise I'll stay longer next time. He smiled slightly and pecked her lips. Her lips twisted into a small smile. I love you. She stared directly at his orbs, which were shining in the dim lights of the room. Love you more. He pecked her lips last time before standing up and disappearing from there, grabbing his mask and cap. She sighed and lay down comfortably on the bed. She hugged his pillow closer to her chest and inhaled his scent, which provided the warmth of his presence, enough for her to fall asleep. I'll leave after 1 hour, she murmured sleepily, deciding to leave from the secret meetup place after a short nap. Coming out, you locked the apartment, which was your secret meetup place you bought with a fake identity. You sighed, looking at your wristwatch, was struck 2 at night. You wanted to spend the night with your boyfriend, but maybe today was not your day. You adjusted your cap and mask, entering the elevator. You came out of your apartment building and walked on the dark road to get your car, which was parked 2 blocks away from the building. The sound of your footsteps echoed amidst the heavy silence of the dark night. You increased your pace when you heard the sound of several footsteps following you. Turning around the corner, you changed your way and entered in a dark alley. You hid yourself in a dark corner. You peeked behind to find 5 armed men dressed in black looking around to find you. Now you were sure that they were behind you. You slunk towards them. As they turned their back to look at the other corner, you pounced on them, knocking them off one by one with your great fighting skills. But more men were coming, and it was getting difficult for you to fight alone against the numerous bulky men. Still, you were using your whole strength. Now you were surrounded by them. You thought that it was better to run from there. You weren't a coward, but it was a need of the situation you were stuck in. You were thinking of an opportunity while fighting with those until you felt a sting sensation on your neck. You cursed under your breath, knowing what was going to happen next. Your head spun as sweat formed on your forehead. You stumbled back, losing your balance. Your vision got blurry and you fell limp on the ground. The last thing you remember yourself getting carried before you lose your consciousness. You groaned as your head throbbed in pain. You tried to move your body but couldn't. Your mouth was dry. You tried to open your eyes but closed it instantly as the light of the bulb directly hit your eyes. You blinked few times before you were finally able to look around clearly. You found yourself tied up on a chair in the middle of what seemed like a basement. Its stinky smell was making you nauseated. There was a bulb as the only source of light which was above you. You could hear the squeaking of rats. Your body was sweaty due to the hot temperature of the room. Is someone here? Your words came out a mere whisper. You tugged on your wrist, but the ropes were restraining any movement. You gulped and gathered your remaining strength and shouted loudly this time. Is someone here? Few minutes later, you heard footsteps approaching you. You lifted your gaze to see silhouette of a tall man. You watched keenly as he stepped towards you. Your pupils enlarged as his face came in your line of vision. Jungkook, you whispered in shock. Had a good sleep. His voice was cold and emotionless, far away from the usual warmth. What is happening, Jungkook? You sounded confused, trying to figure out the plight you were in. I won't beat around the bush. Where are the weapons? You felt a deep furrow forming in your brows due to confusion. What weapons are you talking about? And why did you kidnap me? You watched as his jaw clenched. He bent down to your face level. I don't have time for your petty games. Tell me where are the weapons that you stole from our warehouse? His voice was deep and octaves lower, which could scare the out of anyone, but it ached your anger. You formed your jaw. I don't know what weapons are you talking about. You gritted out, your frustration slowly bubbling up in your mind. Your people burned our warehouse and stole the weapons that were imported from Italy 2 days ago. Then it clicked you that he was talking about the same weapons that your father supposed to buy, but somebody paid the double amount and bought those instead. You were the one who was preparing a special team for stealing those weapons, but the thing you were unaware of was that the warehouse belonged to Jungkook's father. Remembered everything? Now where are the weapons, Ryan? I didn't know that was your warehouse. That's not the answer of my question. He roared, which echoed in the empty basement, but you sat there unaffected. Listen, I accept I was the one leading the mission of stealing those weapons, but I don't know where those are. Don't lie. You know I can kill you right now if I want. Do it. Silence hung heavy in the air as you both stared at each other. Fine. You wanna play? Then two can play a game. He turned back to leave but halted midway when you spoke. Don't you trust me? He turned back at you. You didn't fail to notice the softness in his eyes, which vanished as soon as it appeared, before it replaced by the stoic, hard expression. You tried to read through his eyes that why he was doing all this. Matthew, he called out, and a tall, muscular man appeared there shortly after. His face was devoid of any emotion. His lifeless eyes created a scary aura around him. Boss, no food or water will be provided to her until she opens her mouth to tell the location of weapons, he announced, glancing at you. You scoffed and chuckled mockingly. Let's see how long you're gonna keep me here. Until you tell me where you hid the weapons. I don't know anything, okay? Roll your eyes. He looked at Matthew, who nodded a little and left from there, glancing at you for the first last time. It had been 2 days. 2 days since he had been keeping you hostage in the basement without giving you food or a single drop of water. It would be a lie if he said that he wasn't affected by it. He was agitated. He didn't had a single morsel down his throat from the last 2 days. His deep feelings for you didn't let him. He didn't give a damn about the weapons, but he loved his father and he was doing all that for him. He was clear from the very first day that whenever he had to choose between you and his father, he will choose him, just like you will choose your father over him. He was looking out of the big glass window, lost in his own thoughts. His mind was replaying the moments he spent with you, the first night in a club, where you both ended up spending the night together, unaware of the enmity between your fathers. Then more encounters, and you both ended up falling in love with each other. He got the big lump that formed in his throat as he recalled the situation you both were in. His chest tightened by the thought of you tied up on the chair in a dark, stinky basement without food and water. Shrugging off his thoughts, he decided to go outside to clear his mind. He came back to his mansion after 2 hours and he was shocked to see the guards unconscious. Some were shot in their limbs. He went inside and moved towards the basement. There he saw an empty chair with ropes and a groaning Matthew on the ground beside it. Where is she? She ran away. What were you all doing that you can't stop her? He grated out as he helped him off the ground and made him sit on the chair. Boss, she's a skilled fighter. We tried to stop her, but she knocked down all of us. I think she broke my knee. He hissed due to the tearing pain in his knee. You guys are useless. He ground his teeth in annoyance. His eyes fell on the broken glass piece beside the chair. He cursed under his breath, figuring out about her way of escaping. Boss, she wouldn't have gone far. We can still catch her. No need. But boss, your father, I'll take care of that. Sit here. I'll call someone to help you out. He said and let out a sigh of relief. His heart was finally at ease that she escaped from there, but one thing that was bothering him the most was that their relationship was not going to be same. Jungkook was doing push-ups in his gym thinking about his relationship with you. It had been 2 days since you escaped from there and he made no efforts to abduct you again or to find those weapons. He was not in the right state of mind to think about anything. You were the epicenter of his thoughts. His trance of thoughts broke by his phone ringtone. He pushed himself off the floor and moved to get his phone. He sighed when he saw his father calling him. He expected it coming. Yes, father, I want you here in 15 minutes. His deep elderly voice had dominance. He hung up without hearing any reply. You called for me, father? He spoke as soon as he entered inside his father's home office. His father, who was reading a book, glanced at him before closing his book and removing his reading glasses and placed them nicely on his table. He intertwined his hands and placed them on the table, his brown eyes staring at his son with disappointment. Did you get the weapons? Father, did you find that girl? Jungkook sighed and shook his head. No. The old man stared at his son with cold eyes, waiting for an explanation. Leave the weapons, father. Let it be. We can buy more. I had to starve that girl because of this. His father gave him an amused look. Starve for 2 days? That's the lightest you have ever done with anyone. Why didn't you torture her more? She would have told the truth. We can't torture the one we love, he yelled while his father sat there with no surprise on his face. I was right. You love that girl. How can you fall for our enemy's daughter? Your. He is only your enemy for God knows what reason. Wine and I have nothing to do with this enmity. You both were best friends, right? What happened so suddenly that you both started hating each other to this extent? Whatever the reason was, why don't you guys sit and talk about it? Because this enmity is leading you nowhere. It is only ruining your children's happiness. He stated, trying to be as calm as possible. Father, I think you should talk to Ryan's father. I really love Ryan. At least do it for me, please. He looked at him with hope, but his father formed his jaw and looked away. Jungkook looked at him in disillusion. He took his steps back and left from there, leaving his father in deep thoughts. Jungkook was busy releasing his frustration on the punching bag when his father barged inside. He glanced at him once before focusing back on the punching bag. We are going to meet a girl in the evening. Get ready on time. Meet a girl? For what? For your marriage. It's time that you get married. He stopped and snapped his head in his direction. Are you hearing yourself what you are saying? I know very well. Get ready on time. He scoffed in disbelief. Really, father? You are acting like I didn't tell you about my relationship with Ryan. You will marry the girl I choose for you. No, I won't. You don't get to decide about my life. I won't go to meet any girl. You will go unless you want me to kick you out of your mother's business. No, you won't do that. He clenched his jaw. Watch me. His father gave him a challenging look and turned to leave. Fine, I'll go. He voiced out with frustration. Good. He spoke without turning back and stepped towards the door. I hate you. He murmured in low voice, but nevertheless his father heard him. We'll see that. And he disappeared, closing the door behind him. A knock on the door gained your attention as you were done doing the minimal makeup on your face. Come in. The door opened, revealing your father. He smiled at you. You are looking beautiful. Thank you, Dad. You look just like your mom. He stroked your head gently. You smiled at him. Are you really happy that I chose an alliance for you? You forced out a smile and nodded. Of course, Dad. I'm sure you will do the best for me. You forced out a laugh, gulping down the tears that welled up in your eyes. Shall we go? They will be here any time. You nodded and followed your father downstairs. You descended the stairs with your father. Your eyes moved towards the entrance where you saw two figures coming in your direction. Your eyes widened, seeing Jungkook and his father there. Jungkook was grumpily looking around. When his eyes met yours, his pupils enlarged in shock. You both stopped in your tracks. You both watched your fathers walking towards each other and stopping 2 steps away from each other. They stood face to face, staring at each other with stoic, hard face. The silence hung heavy in the tense air. Your heartbeat quickened, seeing the scene unfolding in front of your eyes. Jungkook's condition was no different. He was holding his breath, waiting for their next move. You both watched keenly as their lips slowly curved upward, forming a full-blown smile before they embraced each other in a tight, friendly hug. You blinked your eyes in astonishment while Jungkook was looking like he would faint any time. How are you? Better than before. They chuckled as they pulled back from the hug. You look so old with grey hair. At least I have hair, you bald head. They laughed as they moved towards the couch and sat beside each other. Their attention diverted to their kids who were standing frozen on their spot. One, Jungkook, come here and sit down. You both glanced at each other and moved towards them, taking a seat beside each other, leaving a gap for at least 2 people. You both looked at the duo with confusion. They are confused. We should tell them the truth. The other one nodded in agreement. So, he called me yesterday suddenly after 24 years and said he wanted to meet me. And we met. We talked and found out that we were blaming each other for our wife's death unnecessarily. It was just a misunderstanding created by our enemy. If we had talked it out earlier, we wouldn't have wasted 24 years of our life hating each other and we wouldn't have ruined our friendship. They both glanced at each other with gloom. And we are back together as best friends. You and Jungkook chuckled as warmth filled in your heart, seeing the wide smile on your father's face after years. As any other typical Asian fathers, we also want to change our friendship to kinship by marrying off our kids. So here we are. Exactly. So, if you both are ready, then we'll proceed further. You both blushed and looked down. But Jungkook don't want to get married, and I don't want to force him. No, no, father, I want to marry. He was quick to jump in the conversation. He is lying. Why? He was saying he doesn't want to marry the girl I chose for him. He wasn't even ready to come here. Now say I'm lying. He squinted his eyes at his son, who whined as you glared at him. Enough. Don't trouble my son in law. Your father defended him, earning a shy smile from him. Why don't you show him around? Nodded and gestured him to follow you. He got up, scratching his neck, ignoring the teasing smile his father threw towards him. The fathers smiled as they saw the happy faces of their children. I won. Remember, I once told you that if you ever had a daughter, I'll make her my daughter in law. He smirked at his best friend. Whatever, but your son is head over heels for my daughter, he retorted back. Weren't we head over heels for our wives? Yes. If they were alive, they would have been the happiest today. They are. They must be celebrating in the other world, as today their dream came true to get their children married. He spoke as amused and a little emotional as they revived the memories of their loved ones. Jess, he asked as he wrapped his arm around his shoulder. Don't cry after you lose. He scoffed. We'll see that. Let's go. They left with their arms wrapped around each other's shoulder to celebrate their reunion. Meanwhile, Ryan and Jungkook were on her bed eating out each other's lips, making out wildly. His hands were casing her waist while her hands were fisted around his head, tugging on his hair. They both rolled on the bed, so indulged in the moment until they fell off the bed. They broke the kiss and laughed, feeling delightful. I missed you so much. Me too, but he yelped as she punched his stomach. This is for starving me for 2 days when you know I can't stay hungry for a long time. He laughed. That is why you broke Matthew's knee. Thank God that you didn't came in front of me at that time. Otherwise, I would have kicked you. Oh, no, no, baby. How will we make babies then? Shut up. I am so happy today. Now I can meet you anytime I want. How about you move in with me? That will be more better. He murmured, tracing wet kisses from her jaw to her neck. No more pills and no more protection. We are gonna make lots of babies. Her eyes widened, her words of protest muffled in his mouth as he got to work over his next project.